So one of the challenges that we have in developing a meditation practice is that we have certain expectations. We've read the scriptures, we maybe have a particular deity that we worship as a personification of our highest being. And as we meditate, we come to know that it's the inner consciousness that's the object of our meditation, that all of these various deities, the Ishta Devatas, are simply forms or representations of our own inner consciousness, of our own inner self. So as we begin to meditate, we'll have experiences or not. It's important not to have expectations of it, but to allow our own inner consciousness to reveal the path. So this is an inner path which is guided from within our own being. It's our own inner consciousness. It's the deity of our own self that in fact we're worshiping. So if we have a truly devout practice, if we're a bhakta, and we have an Ishta Devata that we worship, in this tradition, that's a good thing. We can worship that being with the understanding that concept, that vikalpa, that mind-born creation in our own awareness can be a signpost that we're on the right path. You know, in the Buddhist tradition, they say that when you meet the Buddha, slay the Buddha, because the image of a Buddha, of a deity, of an Ishta Devata can guide us in the right direction. But eventually, in order to know our own self, we have to get off the path, so to speak, and enter into the cave of the heart, where we recognize that the true deity is the consciousness within us, nameless, formless, choiceless awareness itself, pure consciousness. The self, inner consciousness, Shiva, Shakti, by whatever name we call it, exists within us already. It's already achieved. It already is who we are. The challenge is that we have Maya, we have thoughts, we have vikalpas, we have thoughts that differ from that awareness, and these thoughts serve as a barrier, as a veil that covers the experience of the self. So if I put my hands in front of the screen, you can't see my face. But if I simply remove my hands, you can see my face. This is an analogy for the recognition of the self. The self is ever present, and once we remove the vikalpas, the mental constructs, the self is already revealed. This is why we call it recognition, and this can be a path in and of itself, of simply removing the veils of illusion and recognizing that the self is ever present, always and already. So in this practice, we meditate on the physical breath. So we watch the breath arise from the outside, the air goes into the lungs and it goes out. There's a more subtle dimension to the practice, which is an awareness of the prana, the life force. And this life force enters into the subtle body and energizes the entire body. It's this energetic mechanism that breathes us automatically. You know, we don't consciously breathe 24 hours a day. When we forget or we're involved in some activity, the breath continues to breathe. And there is an internal mechanism, an energetic field that draws the breath in and draws the breath out. So as we meditate on the physical breath, watching the breath come and go, the mind becomes one-pointed. The mind becomes quiet. Then we're able to actually perceive the energetic mechanism that's breathing us automatically, the breath within the breath. And we begin to hear the breath. We begin to listen to the breath. And this is the source of our life. When this breath, this prana, leaves the body, we're just a corpse. So we're able to, through meditation, go beyond the physical body to the very subtle mechanism, to the breath within the breath. And this leads us to an awareness of pure consciousness, to the true nature of our own self. So let's talk about the process of self-realization. So most of us are externally directed. Meditation teaches us to turn within to become aware of the inner reality. The first stage is recognizing the nature of our thoughts, our feelings, and our emotions and sensations. These are experienced largely in the subtle body. But there are more inner, more deeper, more subtle dimensions of our own being. And as we continue to meditate, we get in touch with the inner witness, the inner consciousness from which all of this arises. You know, the ancient Vedas say that from universal consciousness, the first form is the prana, the life force. So you could think of this as the life force within each of us. It's thought to reside in the Sushumna Nadi at the base of the spine, in the Muladhara, in the form of the Kundalini Shakti. It's one way of languaging it. Another way is describing it as Shiva, as the pure awareness of our own being. So as we meditate, we go from the denser forms of our manifestation, meaning the physical body. As we meditate, we go to the more subtle dimensions. We go to the causal dimensions, which are the powers and principalities that create the experience of being a human. And ultimately, as we pull back and go deeper and deeper, we get to the very source of our being, which is pure consciousness, Sat Chit Ananda. It's the unchanging awareness I am. And the nature of this is pure bliss. Yes, so let's talk about the witness. So as we meditate on the breath, we look at the physical breath. And what is it that's aware of the breath? The mind, right? The ahamkara, the manas, the buddhi, the human mind is aware of the physical breath. Beyond the physical breath, beyond the level of the contracted form of consciousness called the mind, is an inner witness. It's the source of our being, and it's this inner consciousness, this inner being, that actually gives rise to the mind. The mind is a contracted form of universal consciousness. So as we continue to meditate, we go to subtler and subtler levels. Ultimately, the pure witness, we refer to it as Shiva Shakti, as being and the awareness of being. And it's from this source that the breath emanates and takes the form of a physical body. So it's two stages, isn't it? It's two stages. One is the consciousness going within. You could think of it as withdrawing from the physical world, recognizing the core of our being, the heart, the hridaya, as pure consciousness, and then re-entering the world, but with a new awareness that I, as consciousness, manifest my reality. And this physical reality is a manifestation of my own consciousness. The ancient scriptures, the Vedas, say that the first involute, the first movement of this consciousness into form is the breath, is prana. So we could think of prana with a capital P as the universal life force, as the breath of life, and the small p prana as the breath that we experience as individuals, breathing in, breathing out. So the individual witness merges in the supreme consciousness. So what dissolves is the sense of separation, of individuality. So the one, the individual, becomes the one, universal consciousness, which includes everything. The Shiva Sutras say that one who experiences this state experiences the universe as their body. In the same way that my consciousness pervades this physical body. I can feel in my fingers, I can feel in my toes, I can see with my eyes, I can hear with my ears. My experience includes this entire body. What if, as we realize the self, the universe becomes our body, where our consciousness literally fills every particle in the universe, so that we, no matter what distance someone is from us, we're connected. This is what the sages tell us is the truth, that we're all interconnected, that there's one consciousness, that we share that. Temporarily, we experience ourselves as separated, differentiated consciousness, but once the container is broken, once the body is broken, we can merge back into universal consciousness and experience ourselves as all this. So we're one consciousness experiencing itself as individuals. Ultimately, we're all one. So expectations, we can't really predict what our life is going to be. We can't really predetermine our particular path. The sages say that it takes a long time, perhaps lifetimes, in order to realize the self. And each of us has a completely unique path. Some people, it feels as if they awaken early in life. Others go through life sad, depressed, not realizing what they've dreamt of realizing. The scriptures say the ways of karma, are mysterious, that we really can't say what is someone's destiny. All I can say is that if you meditate on yourself, you honor yourself, you love yourself, that grace will be present. This is not a path of self-effort, it's one of recognition. And if our hearts are pure, and we really truly have the desire to know God, to know the self, to know universal consciousness, that this is a benevolent universe, that the right teacher will come at the right time to deliver the right teachings that are appropriate for you. There's not just one path. You could say there's not a single path, or you could say there is one, that all the streams enter into the ocean. All the different paths meet at the mountaintop. So I would just say, if we have a sincere heart, we're honestly yearning to know the self, the right teacher, the right teachings will appear and guide us along the path. I spent several years wandering the world. I traveled to 75 countries looking for some answer. And when I finally returned to my home in the United States, I took up some study with the Rosicrucian Fellowship. They're a type of Freemason organization that offers teachings. And I went through a 2-year program, correspondence course, where they would send me teachings and I would write back, and then they would send me the next lesson. After 2 years, the final lesson was, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I burst into tears. It felt really true. I had the God chills. It felt something in my neck, in my head, a certain energy. My hair stood on end as I realized that this was true. And it was that week that my yoga teacher introduced me to her guru, Swami Muktananda, and I received his blessing, received initiation, and my life unfolded very beautifully since that time. So the point that I'm making is that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And if you're watching this video, you're on the right path. There are teachings now available to you that will bring you to the direct knowledge and experience of your own self. So there's great delight in worshiping the divine. And what we find is that for many of us, it's easier, that the experience of the divine is more accessible if it has a form. It's very difficult to meditate on the nameless, formless aspect of the divine. So for the sake of practice, for the sake of knowledge, we choose a particular form and can worship that. It might be Jesus or Buddha or Krishna or Radha, Ram. It's easier for the human mind to meditate on a particular form. And meditating on a particular form has great benefit. So I haven't abandoned my physical practices. I worship the divine. I love kirtan. I love chanting the divine mantras because they're full of rasa. They're full of delight. We do these practices to create the good feelings in the heart. When I chant the mantra, I feel love. You know, when I was away from my guru, I always had his picture with me. And I would meditate on the picture and get great delight looking at his face and just feel this extraordinary amount of love. And at a certain point, my eyes would close and I would go into a formless samadhi, just pure awareness, pure bliss. But at the same time, I would miss the beautiful form of my guru, of my teacher. So I would bring myself back to consciousness to look at his beautiful face and to feel the love. And after a few minutes, I would be drawn back into the formless state of samadhi. So it's both. We can experience the joy and the love of God in form, in whatever form it might be. And we can also learn to enjoy the formless, nameless state of abstract nirvikalpa samadhi. You know, I had the great good fortune of visiting Mirabai's home, her temple in Vrindavan. It was a great, powerful experience. We chanted some of her bhajans and chanted the Krishna mantras that she chanted. So there is a practice in the traditions called Guru Bhav, where we can contemplate the state of consciousness of our Ishtadevata. In my own case, it was my guru. And this practice consisted of closing my eyes and feeling as if I were the guru, or actually installing the presence of my guru in the physical body. So I would touch my knees and say, these are the knees of Muktananda. These are the thighs of Muktananda. These are the arms and the fingers of Muktananda. And this is the face of Muktananda and the head of Muktananda. And I would meditate on my guru's form and imagine that I was him. Then I would go deeper and imagine that my consciousness was one with him. This is Muktananda's mind. I am Muktananda, and I would begin to see the world as I imagined that he saw the world as. Everything is consciousness, consciousness above, consciousness below, consciousness all around me. The nature of my own being is supreme bliss. I'm in love with everyone and everything, and I would imagine these qualities and actually become absorbed in my Ishtadevata. And so Mirabai would become immersed in the qualities of Krishna. She would imagine, I'm Krishna's, I'm one with Krishna, I love Krishna. And this was her practice. So this can be a valuable practice. Having a deity in your life is not a problem on the way. It's a very powerful practice, and I would encourage you to do that.